Sure.
We're back with David Code, whose book, Kids Pick Up on Everything, sheds light on how your stress can be transferred to your kids and the problems that would really cause.
Yeah, but don't worry, he has some great advice that will be a life-changing situation for the whole family. So we've got a question about kind of the on-off switch that's mentioned in your book. Tell our viewers a little bit about that.
Yeah. My research talks about the epigenome. This is something new that perhaps most of your viewers won't have heard about yet. But we tend to think about genetics in terms of I have blue eyes because my grandfather had blue eyes and I inherited it. It turns out there's another twist to how we end up with the genes we have. On every single gene, there's an on-off switch called the epigenome, and some of our good genes are turned on or some of our bad genes are turned off by stress. And so you see, that's why stress is an influence on how a child can develop. It's not just whether or not you're inheriting grandpa's genes, it's also whether the good ones or the bad ones are turned on, and it turns out that stress is one of the factors that can turn on the wrong genes.
That explains a lot.
Interesting.
That explains the black sheep of the family.
That's right, that's right.
It is interesting, but we have some questions straight from parents' mouths that we'd love to throw at you, if that's okay.
All right.
Is stress really a bad thing? This next generation seems very complacent and not motivated about much. You do hear that a lot about this generation. Stress is a great motivator. Don't you think kids need that feeling of urgency?
Great question. Absolutely. We do need stress, and it's normal. It's a natural part of us. One thing I loved when I discovered this, whenever you wake up in the morning, do you ever notice how sometimes you wake up feeling kind of worried about the day, or you have so many things going through your minds? That's totally natural. Think back to thousands of years ago when our ancestors would wake up in the morning and they had to get to work, to hunting and gathering or defending or whatever. So that extra burst of stress hormones in the morning was actually a great thing. So you and I don't like it in the morning, but at least take comfort in knowing there's nothing wrong with you. It's a natural burst of stress hormones that we all get in the morning. So yeah, stress is essential. Stress is good. Stress motivates us. The problem is these days, that kind of stress response that might have been useful for our ancestors thousands of years ago has now gone into overdrive, and we rarely make it back to baseline anymore. We're like chronically overstressed, as if we were chronically being threatened by the saber-toothed tiger or by the marauding villagers coming to attack us.
Like the Looney Tunes we just saw.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the kind of thing that we really have gone too far. The past 10, 20 years, it's ratcheted up bit by bit such that we didn't really notice that the ship was sinking, and now we've got to do something about that chronic stress.
Absolutely. All right, my question is, each generation of parents seems to be getting more lax, and nobody wants children to endure the stress of growing up. Don't you think the children need structure that our parents gave us?
Absolutely. I think children do need to endure the stress of growing up, and they do need structure. It's much better to train a kid in independence and self-reliance while they're young and the stakes are low than once they get into their teenage years and they're dealing with some tough issues, right? And by then you want them already trained to not be impulsive and to make the right decisions. So it really begins from day one, or perhaps even from in utero. Get to work on that training. That's right. Do you feel stressed?
Yeah, no, I'm going to calm down right now. All right, we just saw this cartoon, and it was obviously, it's a high-stress situation. How does that relate to your message in the book?
Well, I think one question that I get a lot is from parents of teenagers. And they're always upset because the teenagers have so much attitude and are always negotiating and kind of up against them and resisting them all the time. And they ask me, what do I do about that? And the response I like to give is recognize that it's their job to be outrageous, okay? And just like in the cartoon there with Bugs Bunny and the coyote, it's the coyote's job to steal the sheep, it's the dog's job to stop that. And likewise, it's their job to kind of test the boundaries and to push and try and dominate you and mess with your head as much as possible. And it's your job to resist that, to stand up to them, and to give them a future by understanding that they can't just have whatever they ask for all the time. So rather than whining that he's doing his job too well, make sure you're doing your job in resisting.
I like that. Okay, you kind of answered our next question, which was, what about the teenage years? Why is our son such a jerk now?
Yeah. Without those jerks, I wouldn't have a job. No, it happens all the time. I've got a son who's 13, and he's going into the teenage years, and we're starting to experience some of that daily stimulation, and so I completely understand where she's coming from. But I tell you, it's easy if you are resolved and you understand, okay, this is my job, this is my role. If you focus on that, it takes away a lot of the stress because you stop complaining and being disappointed in your child's behavior and just focusing on what you're supposed to be doing.
So do you think we should almost expect that behavior out of our children to a degree? I mean, when you've got a teenager, should you almost just sort of expect that they're going to, I mean, I know some personality types aren't boundary pushers, but do you think, you know, just already managing our expectations and saying, all right, I know that this is probably what's going to happen. I just need to stand my ground and be prepared for it?
Well, the hormones are raging, you know, and they are on their way to adulthood. So there's going to be some of that for sure. But you know what I like to think about is I go back to maybe a couple hundred years ago in the pioneer families and how, you know, the teenage boy or girl would help out ma or help out pa. And there was a sense of respect back then. They may have had their disagreements, but I think perhaps we've gotten a little too lax and gone a little too far in indulging the teenagers in their crazy, chaotic years. So, in my opinion, the training starts young. If you have a child who respects authority and respects the hierarchy, that, you know, this isn't a democracy and he's not the president with veto power, if you establish that when they're young, it makes the teenage years a lot easier.
Let's fast forward a little bit and talk to the empty nesters who are watching, because maybe that's even more stressful than having the kids at home. Does that stress still feed over to the kids who have flown the coop?
I think less so, but you know, these days there are a lot of parents who are kind of addicted to their children and still maintain they need to get a fix, you know, to text them or talking every day, several times a day, even when the kids are at college. I feel kind of sorry for them. Self-reliance, independence, but I think what happened is parents, with the best of intentions, got a little too caught up in this idea of I need to be my child's friend and to have a great relationship with my child. And parent is a different word from friend. We're not supposed to be the kids' friends. We're supposed to be their parents. And if you do a good job of parenting from 0 to 18, I think odds are good that you'll end up being a good friend with that child for life. But yeah, the addiction has gone a little too far these days. I invite parents to go cold turkey and stop calling and texting the kid.
That's tough. That's a tough challenge. Has to be.
Or you could be like my mom. I taught her to text, and then that's all she does.
Oops.
Well, thank you for being here. This is very helpful. It was good
you're
insight.
welcome. It was a pleasure.
I hope you'll come back again soon.
I will.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, again, the name of David Code's book is Kids Pick Up on Everything, and you can get more information about it and other helpful information at davidarthurcode.com.